Smash Reviews and Tutorials video. The accidental BMW is getting some engine work done on today. It had a lot of oil leaks. Step one, we cleaned up all the oil leaks, and now you can see here off the top of the oil filter, there's oil definitely leaking from there. That's easy fix. You get a new gasket for that every time you change the oil filter. So we'll check that one. And around here, there's a little bit of weeping here. What I'm going to do is I'll clean that up and I'm going to tighten up the bolts and then send it in for roadworthy, and we'll see, because it's just the slightest, there's no drips. That's a couple of weeks to come up like that. We'll see how we go with that, and I said we'll give it a tighten up. So we're going to take it all off and have a good old look. We'll go around the back. We're going to take this cowl off. Taking the cowl off, you take off your cabin filter. I've got a video. Have a look at this link up here. That's the step-by-step, every bolt, everything. I'm just going to give you the concepts in this video here as we're doing the black one. So the cabin filter thing is off. These two parts here have to be clicked off. Get those, and then we're going to lift this off. Here's that one coming off now. We'll just dig our way down, then we can get access. We're going to take both these covers off. Wiggled and slid this forward, wiggled and slid this forward, got those out of the way. And now, this is ready. You want to lift that out, GM. Grab it central in the front, and it should just come out. Up and out. Here we go, here we go. That's it. Cowl's out. Okay, so now we're going to focus in on the changing the gaskets on the oil filter. We've got the cover off. If you want to see the video for taking the cover off, have a look at this link up here, and you can see how to get that rear cowl off. You've got to get the rear cowl off to get this cover off in order to be able to get here and get access to this. So the rough on this, we're going to have to undo this to start with. That'll allow the system to drain, all the oil to drain out. And then we've got the coolant here coming in. This is where your coolant side is, and this is where your oil side is down here. We're going to do both those. So you've got torque screws in on the coolant. Can I get him down there? Can you see him in there? So we're going to be taking this off and replacing the gasket on the side. That's the coolant side, and we're going to be doing the same. You see your bolts here. We're taking this off and replacing the gaskets on the oil side. So we've undone the oil filter cap here, which has allowed the oil to drain down. Have a look at this video here. I've got how to do an oil change on this one series, or not this one, but another one I've had, and that'll show you how to get to the cowl and get in and undo that. A big leak on this engine. I've been wondering where it is, and we're wondering no more, because have a look over the back of this and the amount of oil that's coming out, pouring down there. That's been blowing around, leaking forward and ending up all over the place down here. So definitely the gaskets down here need to be changed. So there's one of your bolts, there's the other one of the bolts. We're going to pull that out. We're going to have to take those hoses off anyway. Hopefully they won't be tight, those quick releases here and here. So if you're going to be doing this sort of job, have yourself a telescopic magnet. I've already dropped a 10mm socket, fell off down over the back, and I was able to get it back. But also, just for getting the bolts out, they're in there so tight, you're never going to get your fingers down there. So just get in and onto the top, and hopefully we'll be able to, yep, there we go, lift the bolts out that way as well. Sticking them down, you make sure they're all the same length. Yep, that's now free and loose. So all we need to do now, undo these quick releases. We're actually going to put a plastic bag over the top of the alternator, because there'll be a little bit of coolant will come out. So I'll undo these quick releases. I'll actually undo this air bleed first. I'll undo that, undo the quick releases, because yeah, that's a little bit high, so it'll get the coolant out. So these quick release fittings, you just get, you see where it's clipped to the back there, you get a screwdriver under that and pull that up. There we go. It'll stand up like that, and then these can tend to stick, but then, shoot, no, this one's not stuck. Excellent. There you go, and that's off. And I've got no coolant leaking out of this at this point, because it's all up at the top, so it's really good. The oil's draining down, the coolant's draining down, so we'll get that other quick release off underneath, and we'll have that whole assembly out. So then, just like that, the whole thing comes up. Look at that, she's lifted off, and we've got our new gasket to put on. You can see all the marks of the leaking that have been going on for a long time around the back. These are very common, and it really isn't too hard. You've got to have the right tools, certainly, to get the thing apart, but not too difficult. So we'll clean all that up. And I know I've read on a couple of forums that says don't put silicone on these seals, don't add anything, you just got to leave the seal. So we'll pull this one out. I've got a little O-ring hook. I'll show you how to get that out. We'll clean up that face, get this oil leak fixed. Excellent. Take the opportunity to clean up down there while we're at it. But the good news is that it's not leaked any coolant or any oil in doing this change. Got it out in the light now, and we're giving it a clean. And as you can see now, getting to these screws is just not an issue. We can get to them all, no worries. Pop that off, replace that gasket. And this gasket here, you can see it's got a little slot in the back. That's just going to come straight out like that. Got the gasket out, give all the channels a wipe out. And then this is the old gasket, this is the new gasket. And we'll put the new gasket in its place. Okay, so then that's the gasket back in, the new gasket. It just presses into place, just can only go one way. Sits in nice and tight. So this is now ready to go back and be bolted on. The same as anything when you're putting it down, do it up, get them down and pull them up a little bit, and then pull it up a bit tighter, and then pull it down nice and tight all up. But we'll fit this little contraption back on, put it all together. Okay, so as you're about to put it back in, another super good look at your O-ring. Make sure it's all seated, nothing sitting out of place, no debris, anything like that. Make sure the place is going to seat is all good and in great order as well. Know where your bolts are. And then we're going to tip him over. Again, watching that O-ring as you go down and lower that into place. Getting these guys out of the way, just like that. And then we'll get those 3 bolts in position and nib them up. Remembering that I had to lift these 2 bolts out with a magnet, what I'm going to do is drag this forward. We'll drop the bolts into their spots and then move it forward into position so we don't have to try and drop these down from the top. I have changed a couple of radiators in one series in my days. They crack just here on this arm. And these quick releases, particularly the big ones, can be unbelievably hard to get off. Now, I'm a swimming pool guy. Most of you know that from knowing my channel. So O-rings and all that sort of stuff is very much my thing. These quick release fittings have actually got an O-ring that goes on here. So what I do, I just put a smear of silicone-based lubricant. I'll put a link through the description. I'm going to link good quality tools. I'm going to link things like the silicone, the O-rings. I'll look up all the right parts for this engine so that you can have a look. They're all in the description. But what I do is just put a little bit of a smear of this silicone-based lubricant onto there. That actually needs a bit of a clean up so it's smooth. A little bit of lubricant where the O-ring goes, and then it is easy to come off. You don't go putting blobs on that are going to get into the coolant or anything like that, but just a smear on the metal where the O-ring goes, and it'll make life so much easier if you ever got to pull it off again. And it'll help the O-ring stay conditioned and help it seal. So then to get these quick releases back on, you slide that back into place. You see this slot here? That's where the spring goes. So you slide that back. See, it can go actually past where the spring needs to go. So you pull it back to there, press your spring down, and then check it. That's on. The one underneath it, that's on. And they're good and tight. There is an air bleed procedure. I've got a separate video about that, how to bleed it. Because you've got a big airlock in here, you do need to go through the air bleed procedure.